Hey, what's up, guys? Paul from Paul's Carts, and what I wanted to talk about today was the common 14cc small head swap. So this is the 14cc head that is a common swap to get your compression ratio up, and a lot of people do this swap, and it's a pretty cost-effective way of raising the compression ratio. And a lot of people tend to not like this head because it doesn't flow as well. It gives you the compression ratio, but you don't have the flow. So, in this pursuit to kind of see what we can do to make things better, I've made a head out of the GX200 head, which you see here, and I just did a CC test on it. And if you look here, it's 10, and each one of these lines is 2, so 10, 12, 14, maybe 14 and a half cc's. Now when I tested this head, stock valve configuration, but I tested it with a brisk spark plug. Now a brisk spark plug is the smallest spark plug that takes up the least amount of cc's, I'd say, just because it doesn't have an electrode strap. If you are in fact using like an Autolite AR3910X plug, that plug usually is 1 cc bigger than a stock plug, so it's 1.25 cc's bigger than this plug. So this is about 14.5 cc's right now with the brisk plug, but if you were to put an Autolite AR3910X plug in it, it would be a little under 13 cc's, or maybe 13 cc's right on the button. Now, let's go into a couple of characteristics about the 14cc head that kind of hinder it. The first thing that when you look at this head that kind of stands out is the amount of shrouding that's on the intake and the exhaust valve. Now, this amount of shrouding is basically about this much of the valve from about here to about there on the intake, and about that much of the valve on the exhaust. So about 35% on the exhaust and about 28 to 30% on the intake. So that's one problem that I'd like to see if I was able to solve. Another one would be these hard corners down here. These are at about a 60-degree angle coming up from the bowl, and they're met with the walls coming down to the chamber at a pretty hard corner there. It's not a sharp cut corner, but it's definitely not a nice even radius. So, and I mean that's from pretty much 60% of the valve, or at least 55%, a little over the middle there and a little past the middle there. 50% would be like there. So a little bit more than that. Doesn't have a very good corner when the air exits the valve. And the third thing about this plug is about this head is the plug location. Behind the plug, there's not real much room to start the burn. There's not real much place for the burn to start with the burn front. So those were a couple features about this head I wanted to improve on. So I wanted to basically get the same amount of cc's with a much better flowing head. So this is what I ended up with. Now this is a GX200 cylinder head, so it has slightly different ports. Now the GX200 has a little bit more metal in the ports, a little bit more to work with. So what I've done here is I've welded the chamber. Now after welding the chamber, I put this cylinder head on the mill. And what that allows me to do is to radius cut, which means, a curvature, is to radius cut around the complete circumference of both intake and exhaust valves. And when I do that radius cut, you have a very even, 100% even area of material around the cylinder, around the valves removed. Now, when it comes to valve shrouding, any area that's closer than 2/100ths of an inch between the valve and the chamber wall is considered shrouded valve. So like I talked about, they have about 30% of the valve shrouded in this setup here. So in these, when I set up the mill, I just set it up so it was 200 thousandths away from each one of the valves, and just went ahead and put the cut down, which gives it a nice unshrouded valve, 100% around the circumference of the valve. Next issue I tried to address is that tight corner, and by using that radius cut, there is no part of that 100% around the valve where it doesn't have a nice smooth transition coming up out of the valve. Now that might really not do anything for 100% flow number when you're flowing it on the flow bench, but when I'm doing this through the laminar smoke, this shows a considerable amount of cylinder fill, just by the way the smoke comes out around the valve in kind of champagne glasses down around the valve. It's a beautiful smoke pattern that comes out of these. So that, along with having the higher compression and the better flow capabilities, 30% more of the valve unshrouded, it also doesn't have any of those hard corners that are in this cylinder head, which in the shape of it, which also allows a very, very dramatic increase in cylinder fill. The third thing I wanted to address was the spark plug area. And in this, as you can see, it's right level with the base of the spark plug all around. Basically cut it at the same cantered angle as the plug itself, which gives it this really nice shape. With this shape around the plug, it's able to make almost like a halo. So when that spark fires, it starts to burn front much more evenly, which gives a lot better burn, quicker, more even burn. And along with all the cylinder fill and increase in flow, this cylinder head was basically my version of the 14cc head. I had thought of everything that was kind of hindering them, and designed this one around the best ways to go about it. Now, it's basically all about the redistribution of the aluminum in the heads. Now, they have some material out here and here and here, but then it's tight here and here. So I've basically put it back in these areas here, and removed it from the shrouded areas. Now, if you ever look at the burn pattern in a cylinder head, it's like usually right around here like that. So the burn pattern is almost this shape right here. So when it comes to the redistribution of the aluminum in this cylinder head, this is almost as good as it can get. The one other thing I would do to these before I send them out is on the mill, it kind of leaves these sharper corners, and I get in there and I'll take just my burr and I'll come across and I'll flatten those out and kind of roll them over. People talk about hot spots in cylinder heads and things glowing with pre-ignition. Well, aluminum doesn't glow, so that's a real benefit. But aluminum still does get hot. So, knocking down these edges here will definitely help, making sure you don't get any detonation. So, I mean, this cylinder shape here is just absolutely great. I had the plexiglass set up with the Vaseline around it, CC'd it out to 14cc. So, you can get it even higher by going to an Autolite AR3910X plug, or just even a stock plug with an electrode strap would take up more space. And another thing, this head isn't even milled at this moment, so this head can get milled down even more. So, but if you don't mill it, you still have the room for that extremely high lift. So it's kind of like a win-win-win. This is my version of the 14cc head. I basically just found all the flaws in this one, and made them into, this is my version of it. So, you know, I hope this version, you know, really helps people out there looking for a cylinder head that's got better flow. I do sell these on eBay, list them up for auction, one a week. And you know, the welded combustion chambers. So you might want to check those out. They're just on the Predator 212 cylinder head. Pretty easy to find. You'll see a picture of it. But yeah, this triple like hemisphere shape really, you know, works wonders, and it is still UT1 style. It's not a Hemi style, so it's nothing nothing like that, but it's just the 14cc version of the cylinder head that I created out of the GX200 cylinder head. So this is Paul from Paul's Karts. Hope this helped you guys out with your builds, and hopefully something like this will help you make the power you need. So until next time, guys, have a good day.